Welcome to the Rainmaker Multiplier on Demand, a podcast for leading financial professionals, or rainmakers, and their teams that offer support for securing a successful future. From marketing help to staffing structure, listen and subscribe for actionable insights from advisors and skilled professionals alike.
Exciting topic today, mentorship and tapping into thought leaders. And to help us with this topic, three thought leaders of our own here. First, Peter Lynch, founder and retirement tax advisor at the Lynch Financial Group. Along with him, Corey Shevlin, paraplanner at the Lynch Financial Group. And our own partner, ambassador, and mentor with C2P, Carl Smith. Thank you all three for being here today. Before we get into topics for our guests today, please feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat. We'll make sure we address as many of those as we go along. But also, if you have any memorable mentorship experiences that you have of your own, we'd love to hear about those in the chat. Maybe could unmute and share a few of those, but make this kind of an open dialogue with everyone. So please feel free to leverage the chat during today's discussion. With the topic centering on mentorship today, Corey and Pete were our perfect example of the mentor-mentee relationship in action. So to get us rolling, we'll start with you, Peter, to tell us how you two connected, and then we'll let Corey fill in all of your gaps from there.
There's a lot of gaps that I'm sure.
There's a lot.
Yeah, thanks for that, Matt. I appreciate that. It kind of like with everything else in this business, sometimes luck plays a big role in it. So I had somebody working with me that was more of a clerical, doing some work on the insurance side and getting her up and running. And then a couple of weeks into it, I said, "Hey, do you know anybody?" Because she was younger, early 20s, just out of college at that point. And I said, "I'm looking for somebody like a mini me. I need somebody to do more of the financial stuff." She was more of an art major, but she was good with the clerical and organization. And she was like, "Yeah," like every kind of late teenager, like, "Yeah, I'm not really sure." But a couple of weeks later, she came back and said, "Hey, you still looking for somebody like financial type stuff?" She goes, "Because I have a friend, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Yeah, have him come in." And then Corey was the one that came in, and he'll fill in the gaps, but it was like during COVID, and he had some opportunities to be doing something with the Peace Corps at that time. And it just, everything kind of aligned in the same direction. So he ended up coming on board on more of like hey, let's help out. Let's kind of learn the business a little bit. We weren't involved in the career path at all. It was just like, all right, let's get a body in here and just start doing some stuff and see if he's interested in it. And from there, it kind of took off. So I'll let Corey, if you want to fill in the blanks on there, because it's a little bit more exciting from your end as far as where you were. And because it wasn't like one of these things that we posted and we went through all these different job applicants. I mean, it was COVID and there was just nobody that was even walking around town. So to have somebody to come in here, it was pretty neat to have that.
Yeah, so it was not the traditional start of a relationship anyway.
Not something we're trying to replicate going forward.
Yeah.
Not at all.
You're a unicorn, Corey.
Yeah, I guess so. And it's gone pretty well. It was rocky in the beginning, but it's kind of smooth sailing now. But initially, when I first came in, I graduated from college in 2019. I'm young. I'm 27. So I was originally taking a gap year, and then I was planning on going to Ecuador for Peace Corps. That fell through because of COVID. And I was on the side just bartending and doing restaurant jobs. And then I was like, I need to find a new career, because the whole goal was Peace Corps, come back, do some government type work, but everything got stuck at a standstill. So then I came across Pete, and I knew, I talked to a hedge fund guy out in California initially, and he was like, just get your foot in the door into any financial space you can get into, whether it's on Wall Street, whether it's at one of the big wealth management firms, get your foot in the door, because experience is everything. So I came across Pete, and he kind of just showed me the ropes of everything, and he threw me into the fire. I had no idea what holistic planning was. All I knew was investments to begin with. So it was kind of a great opportunity, and Pete has been very good at just kind of explaining all the different services and whatnot. So.
No, thank you. And we'll look forward to digging into a little bit more of that in a second. First, Carl, we'll turn it over to you, because you come at this in a slightly different perspective. And Carl Smith joining us, he's having some weather issues down there, so we'll have to be patient if there's a Wi-Fi dilemma over there. But Carl, can you share your experience from being a mentor at your former firm and now leading, of course, the ambassador program here at C2P? How have these roles influenced your approach to mentorship and professional development of advisors?
It's been very powerful. I'm going to start as an advisor who didn't have the opportunity for mentorship, good coaching. A couple organizations I was with prior to helping put C2P together, anytime we had an issue, the answer to that issue will just spend more money on marketing and it's going to correct your issues. Well, it didn't. And even before we had the mentor program and a formal coaching program when we first started, I started utilizing Gina, talking to people in Jason's office and Don's office. And what I realized was that we were more than just partners. We were family that was helping to grow each other. Some of the things that I had missing, they had processes for and vice versa. So it's been huge to be able to have those experiences. And that's what we started with the coaching program as a formal coaching program. And I think, in fact, I know Pete was part of that program where we would assign a coach and once a month we'd spend an hour with them. And after a little bit of time, they pretty much tapped us out. And so we would send them to another coach. That led to building the mentor program. But I think one of the biggest things is that it takes you off that island and it gives you subject matter experts that can help you just talk through things, whether it's verification of what you're really wanting to do or just getting some good, solid direction in what others have done to be able to help. So it was an invaluable tool for us. Our organization in South Carolina grew exponentially. That's how I was able to hire people, bring Brandon on board, and he became my successor, is because Gina interviewed him and others interviewed him and things of that nature. I'm where I am today because of that experience that we had.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Carl, and explaining like the evolution of that. But I think the other kind of nugget for our listeners to take from that too is you kind of hit on indirectly the difference of a manager, a coach, and a mentor, and how a lot of times those could be the same or maybe one or two people, but they are different in terms of how you're approaching that in that relationship. So I think we'll get a little more into that in a little bit, but the difference of especially manager, coach, and mentor and what that means to both sides of the argument.
And I think it's important that to those of you that are on this call, understand that we still do the coaching. We can get Gina involved in helping you hire. We still do all those things, but we developed that over a period of time and perfected it and are bringing in more mentors on a regular basis to help you.
And so, Peter, come back to you. Can you discuss how, you briefly mentioned this in your opening, how mentors can help shape the development and sustainability of a financial advisory practice, kind of in general, so kind of higher level, especially kind of tying it into the career path, like you said, you've ultimately done now?
Well, piggybacking on what Carl said, I was part of that coaching program when they launched it. So Don Chamberlain was my first coach. Check in with him on a monthly basis. We'd fill out all these charts and grids and where do you want to be 1 year, 3 year, the standard type business planning. And then I got switched over to Carl because they started rotating it a little bit more. And it's really interesting because Don and Carl have two of the better practices that have been out there. And they do the same thing, but they do it differently, which is really neat because you get to jump in on somebody else's strengths, how Carl did it, or more importantly, how Carl got to where he did. So his story is a lot different than Don's story. So that part of it was pretty powerful. And I actually went down to Carl's office about 10 years ago, drove down to Aiken, South Carolina from New Jersey, about 11 hours to do one of the office visits there. And that was really the eye opener because you could see what the future is going to be. And you could see the office, the way it was running. He had just hired his tax practice person there full time. He just had an attorney that was coming in there 1 or 2 days a week doing trusts and wills. He probably had about 10 or 12 people in there. And he was just through his coaching program where they basically told Carl, get away. You're in the way. Like, let people do what they need to do. You have really good people here. Some of them are in the wrong chairs. And I went in Carl's office and it shocked me. It was the cleanest office I've ever been in. And he sat there and he had his red tail up in front of him. He says, they don't let me touch this red tail. I just sit here and they maneuver it because, look, he was doing it before and he was getting in the way. And that's kind of what I was doing. And everybody else probably on this call, as you start out, you're just hustling and you're doing everything you can and you don't have time to hire somebody. You know, it's easier for me to do it myself. So that coaching program really helped me kind of take pause a little bit and say, hey, look, I can't keep going at this pace. And it's not like we're crushing the cover off the ball where I need all this help. I need help to kind of just get the efficiencies of what we want to get done. And I think that's really been important now as we get into, we'll talk about a little bit more about Corey's role and what he's done and how it's a little bit different, how we've been able to kind of run the business as opposed to 2 or 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. And when you first kind of got started with that, the mentor-mentee relationship, did you find it was a lot more like shared experience versus just passing off work?
You mean with Corey?
Yeah. Yeah.
Early on, it was just the teaching. And I think Carl was the one that taught me, like, look, it's an investment in people that you hire. It's not just an expense line. So like we do marketing programs, like he said, hey, it's not working. Let me spend more money on marketing. Let me get that new technology. Let me go to that conference, sign up with this group. Like there's always some quick fix on it. But with the hiring process, it's an investment. Like you mentioned family, Carl. It's kind of what it's like. Like if you're going to be with these people, this is going to be a big part of your business, which most of our businesses is really, it's a big part of what we're doing. You got to get the right people first, and then you got to make sure you put the investment in there because it's garbage in, garbage out. If I don't put enough time in there because I'm too busy, I'm trying to close cases and try to make money and keep the doors open, it doesn't work. And that happened in the past with me with some people. I was so busy keeping them busy that I couldn't keep it going. But with Corey, it's been more as time went on. It didn't happen right away, but as time went on, it's an investment, and the big investment is education and understanding it. And you guys see him in a lot of these conferences that we can go to, and he's on a lot of the webinars I'm on with Ed Slot groups or different groups that we're kind of trying to educate in different areas of the business that we're trying to get a little bit deeper into. And he does a ton on his own. So a lot of it is from that point of view. He's bringing a lot to the table himself. He's not just showing up, okay, I did my 8 hours and then I go home. Like he's doing a lot more on his own because he knows where he wants to be as well.
Well, then Corey, on your side, how has Peter mentoring you helped mold you and impact your career? And we'll consider this a safe space for you. All right.
Yeah,
Peter's not allowed to hold anything against you.
Pete's been great in his role as a mentor and in my growth. I think as you touched on with shared experiences, Pete has taken a lot of those experiences with Carl, with other professionals in our industry, and brought it back to us. And then we kind of tweaked that. So the personal experiences he has had has helped drive my own personal journey. And my personal journey is to develop this business. Pete, he always says, like one of the main things he always says is treat the name on the front of the door as if it's your own name. So the Lynch Financial Group, treat it like it's Corey Shevlin, because ultimately, like what I do is going to have a big impact on this firm as a whole. So I feel like with Pete, he is he's very transparent about everything that goes on with our business on a day-to-day, on a month-to-month, on a year-to-year. And I think that's definitely helped me understand how to be a business owner, how to be an advisor, and just how to be just a better person. We just recently took the Right Fit Advisor assessment. That was so eye-opening because I didn't do that initially when I first came in 3 years ago, and we just recently did it. But the styles of who we are and who I am and who Pete is, like we work very well together because it's not because we're very similar, but we complement each other with the strengths and the weaknesses that we have. So Pete, he scored high in the DIS section of the S, which is steadiness, also known as the peacekeeper. And I think for a mentor, that is huge to have those qualities of the peacekeeper, which is ultimately like loyalty, it's supportiveness, collaborativeness. It's someone who's calm, someone who's patient, because those qualities are qualities of a leader and they're qualities of someone who wants to help. And I think because Pete kind of scored high, luckily he scored high in that section. He's been a great mentor because he's been just naturally calm and a good mentor to me. So that was definitely super helpful during my journey here.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, Carl, I think as everyone on here knows about the mentor calls and matching advisors with applicable thought leaders within the C2P network. But as a reminder, can you share how these are used to enhance a financial advisor's capabilities? And for those that aren't leveraging these regularly, what can participants expect to gain from these calls?
Sure. Let me talk about the structure, the coaching, the mentorship, and the ambassadorship of the organization. They're all separate. They all enhance what's going on, but coaching is a direct coaching of This is your problem. This is how we think you're going to solve it. The mentorship is a specific problem that you have that you need to talk to a subject matter expert that can help you get you back on track, give you the ideas of how to fix that. Those are really short, but they're to the point calls. We don't spend a lot of time talking about kids and grandkids and hunting and fishing or anything else. It's all done, as everybody knows, through technology to get it set up. You get on a call and you spend 30 minutes going over the things that you're needing to do. I know with Peter, he mentioned Art Snarzik, and I've followed exactly what's going on there with them. And it's direct, it's to the point, and it's something that Pete and Corey can act on immediately and help get them back on track. All of our team are ambassadors. We don't have a team member that's not an ambassador for C2P. I am on the mentor site, but you don't burn the mentor call, even if you book it through the mentor site with me. It's an extra call. The ambassador program is to make sure that you know which mentor to go through to get what you need. If you need a refresher on the Mentor Connect site, I can take you through that. We can do all those things. It's also to help you with any issues that you maybe have, and we don't have, but you may have with maybe a staff member or something, or just not getting along, which we don't have any of that really, to be honest with you. But you have somebody you can come to meet, or to Jason or to somebody else in there and say, you know what, our personalities really don't match. We need to do something different. All three of these programs, along with the masterminds that you meet, the other advisors at conventions like we're doing in Pittsburgh next week, you form relationships that you can go to and say, Joe, I've been watching your organization. I would love to emulate what you're doing. But can you tell me how you do, the podcast or whatever it is? And so all of this goes into the program of taking you off of that island with no escape to having a lifeline that you can reach out to and somebody you could bounce things off of. I've been really impressed since we started with the Mentor Connect with the quality of the subject matter experts that we have there. In the industry that we're in, I don't think there's anything that can't be solved through one of these mentors out there. So I really encourage you to utilize it. One thing that really, I guess it dumbfounds me is that a lot of advisors will let their Mentor Connect calls go away. In other words, they're not using them as they should. Corey's a perfect example. If Pete's not using them, Pete can give permission to Corey to use those. You can do that with your staff members and whatnot. We can't teach you how to sell. You already know that because of the quality of advisor you are. You're already there. But we can help teach you how to build a business, how to build a staff, how to do the things that needs to be done. Pete picked up on something really important when he came to my office, was that my staff had reached a point to where they depended on me for the big stuff. But I'll give you an example. Back probably 10, 12 years ago, we had been 20 years doing our tax practice. My daughter and I would meet every 1st of January for our meeting at the end of the month to kick off the tax season. And we would build the agenda, blah, 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 blah. So we spent an hour doing that one day, and I could tell something was bothering her. And I said, at the end of the meeting, I said, Hope, what the heck is worrying you? There's something that's behind. She said, well, I don't know how to approach this. So just spit it out. She said, would you open the meeting, but not state? I said, what are you talking about? She said, you've taught me everything I know. You're so busy doing other things. You don't keep up to date with the day-to-day operations of the tax practice. And your personality does not allow you to not take over the meeting. I would like to conduct the meeting without you there. And my initial reaction was one of kind of anger. But then I thought about it for a second. I said, my baby has arrived. And I wasn't talking about Hope. I was talking about the business. That's what you need in your business. You need to empower your people. You need to give them the ability to reach out to subject matter experts and figure out their own problems. You don't need to second guess them. You need to monitor them. And mentorship, coaching, emulate what we do at C2P and put that in your own practice and build your own mentorship program. And it could be amongst the members of your own team. And the other thing about what we do in all of this is that we have large offices like the J.L. Smith Group and One Team Financial, others that want to build a conglomerate of large offices. We have others that just want to build a lifestyle practice, but you can't build a lifestyle practice unless you're being coached and being mentored and whatnot. And what happens when you get out of your way and utilize these sources and processes that's there for you, you will grow exponentially because you have others supporting you.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned there too, Carl, about the importance of the personality fit with a mentor and mentee. I think that kind of gets into our next question. Well, Peter, we'll start with you. Can you discuss what qualities that a mentee should be looking for in a mentor, and conversely, what should a mentor be looking for in their mentee? Because it's a relationship, so it goes both ways.
Well, that's probably something Art could probably answer better than I can, because a lot of that, just with those assessments, I mean, that was an eye-opener. Corey and I have been together for 4 years. I've done mine in the past, but I've never done his. And then I also never had somebody overlay them and say, look, this is this is that. And the way Art does it is great. It doesn't mean it's bad, even though some of those things I come back and I give Corey a hard time about. Well, of course, you scored an 8 on that. Of course, you're not going to do that. But it's pretty interesting when you look at that. It takes pressure off you as the business owner, because like, all right, he's better at that than I am. Let him take that. I'll take over here. It just helps you kind of divvy up the responsibilities a little bit. And to Carl's point, like, he had some really good people there that were in the wrong seats. Once he put them in the right seats, everything seemed to work pretty well. And right now I'm trying the Dan Sullivan thing, almost like the unique abilities, and really try to foster that. So Corey has some really, really good strengths with the business that I'm trying to kind of continue to feed. And he has some weaknesses too, but we're not trying to improve his weaknesses. It's like, the heck with it. Let's just keep working on your strengths. We'll find somebody else to do your weaknesses. So that's kind of where that is. So I think the answer to your question is more, we got a little bit lucky, the two of us. And part of it is we both played college athletics. I played baseball in college. Corey played baseball in college. A lot of our stuff is sports analogies that we do. Like, we had one yesterday. We were talking about, hey, this is like a 9-inning baseball game, but it's like the 4th. And we have a little rally going. And usually you kind of sit back a little bit like, all right, we're up by 3-4 runs. But I said, we got to sustain this rally, because we may need this in the 8th or 9th, because depending on what's happening in the 4th quarter. So it was really neat communicating that way. It doesn't mean that everybody has to be an athlete or former athlete that's in our office, but from those analogies, sometimes that's where the coaching comes in. Like, Corey's had very good coaching as far as athletics, and myself. And sometimes there's not much of a difference when it comes to business coaching also, when you think in terms of that mindset.
Right. But it's good to like hear, I think, for the audience, how you're connecting on that, because there's the delivery of it, and that commonality you have is how you're able to connect.
Yeah.
How about you, Corey? Any qualities you would say, especially from your side, of what a mentee is looking for in their ideal mentor?
Yeah, I think what I touched on before, like just someone who's very supportive and wants to collaborate with you. He's been very good at acting like a coach, and also as a friend. Like, as I come into the office, I don't look at him. I mean, it's good I don't look at him as a boss, I guess. He's very understanding. I also think mentees, like someone like myself, like, we've tried hiring people in the past and they haven't worked out. And it's people who aren't you need to be ambitious and proactive. You need to be engaged with the business. Like, you need to want it. If you don't want it, then it's never going to work. So I think that's super important for a mentor looking for someone who they can be a mentor towards someone.
Yeah, we've missed on that in the past. Like, we've had people come in here that just want a job, and it's not the right fit. Like, you need people who have that entrepreneurial mindset. And I think Greg Hammer had mentioned it before in the past, where he said, hey, we used to go and find really good people. We'll figure out what to do with them later on. And he goes, it didn't work. You got to figure out what you need and then go find that person. So we were kind of from the Greg Hammer school, where we had some really good people that we would meet with clients and friends and just people that we knew around. Hey, come on in. They're really nice, trustworthy. We could bring them in. But then we just didn't have a right spot for them. So now with the career path, it's a little bit easier with everything that Art's doing. It just makes it so much easier to say, yeah, this is a good fit, or you can try it, but you're going to have problems on this side of it. And if you want him or her to do this, you got to really just consider that before you do that. And it's been great because it's given us pause on a couple of candidates that we've had that, you know what, I don't think that's where we need to be right now. Maybe down the road, that person could fit in, but right now, that's not what we need. And that's kind of what Greg Hammer used to say. We brought people in and we didn't need it at that point, and they were really good people, but it didn't work at that stage of the game.
No, that's glad you shared and kind of how that's evolved too. Pete, I'm just curious, did you, outside of Carl, which you mentioned earlier, anyone early in your career that you had as a mentor that maybe shaped how you're approaching it now, or has this just kind of come as you've evolved in your career?
I've been fortunate, I guess. I came in the public accounting side of the thing, so I had some really good mentors from there. And then I was in corporate finance. One of the big things when I left the big firm in public accounting, they were saying, look, it's great that you're moving on, doing your own thing, but you just have to remember, you can't just walk down the hall right now and get the best of the best and ask them that question. So just remember that, because when you go out on your own, you're kind of on your own. So that really resonated with me. I know that was public accounting, and this is a little bit different running my own business, but I had to really scramble to get people around me that I knew that I can count on, that I can go down the office basically, but call them on the phone. Hey, and that's why I joined Ed Slott's group 20 something years ago, because I just needed that backstop in case something came up that I wasn't able to do. And becoming part of C2P over the years, that was equally important, just because everybody's swimming in the same direction. And they're all going through the same stuff. Some are a little bit more advanced, which is great. I was about 5 years behind where Carl was when I first met with him. He told me that, Pete, I was in your spot like 5 years ago. You're right at that spot. This is what we did to get out of there. So that's really, really helpful, because we're by ourselves, and it's nice to be by ourselves, but sometimes there's no accountability. Like, you can just have that day and be like, okay, whatever. But we still need that corporate check-in a little bit to kind of make sure that we're on the right path.
Right. And I've heard that a lot too. Just advisors, a lot of times you can feel like you're on an island, especially when you're in a smaller practice. Fortunately now, especially you with Corey, but leveraging, I think the important message there is leveraging mentors that could be outside the organization, as you've mentioned, not just Carl and some in the C2P network, but Ed Slott as well. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, we made it. Another 30 minutes gone. Thank you very much, Pete and Corey. And Corey, I'll speak on behalf of C2P. We love having you so involved and so driven. So kudos to you, but kudos to Pete for your relationship and developing you along the way. Glad to have you both part of our network here. Thank you, Carl, for sharing all of your expertise in the evolution of our program here. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in. This podcast was brought to you by C2P, an organization whose purpose is to educate, train, grow, and support holistic financial advisors so families can achieve true prosperity. Never miss an episode by subscribing now to discover new resources and strategies. Visit c2penterprises.com to learn how we can help scale and secure your business. At the time of delivery and any subsequent publishing, information was deemed reliable, but is subject to change by the time of listening or viewing. The contents of this piece include options and projections of C2P, are subject to change, and are for informational purposes only. The information provided in this presentation is not intended to be individual investment, tax, or legal advice.